Hi, Keith here from Academy of Bass. Thanks for joining me. If you struggle with walking bass lines or you find them confusing and you just can't get to grips with them, I'm hoping this lesson is going to help you out, because today I'm looking at a really simple approach to playing walking bass lines, and the best thing about it is that it's completely non-technical. So you're not going to get bogged down in too much theory, but it's really easy to understand and it's easy to start using. I'm going to use a technique called stepping stones. I'll be really surprised if you've heard of it, because it's something I invented to help me when I first started to learn how to play walking bass lines, and I've used it ever since in my teaching. Now, it goes without saying that to play really creative and engaging walking bass lines, it's helpful to have a good command of harmony, and by that I mean you need to understand chords and be able to play the notes in those chords as fluently as possible across the fingerboard in as many permutations as you can. But if you're not quite there yet, it doesn't matter, and it doesn't mean that you can't benefit from playing really good walking bass lines. So let's get straight into this and make a start. The thing about any walking bass line is that it's played over a set of chords, and whilst the chord progression that I've chosen is heavily used in jazz, it's also a very popular standalone chord progression that you hear in pretty much every style of music. So everything that you're going to learn today is going to be useful to you in your everyday bass playing. The chord progressions are 1, 6, 2, 5, but don't worry about the terminology. There is one thing that you do need to know though, and that's a major scale, but the good thing is that we're working in the key of C, so it's the C major scale. Now, I'm sure you know this, but just to be thorough, it's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C again. But where does the 1, 6, 2, 5 fit into this? Well, that's really easy. 1 just means that it's the chord built on the first note of the scale, which is C. So we've got a C major or C major 7 chord. The 6th chord is built on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6th note of the scale, which is A. That's an A minor chord or an A minor 7. The 2 chord is built on the 2nd degree of the scale, which is D. That's a D minor or D minor 7 chord. And then finally we've got the 5 chord, which is G, because that's built on the 5th note of the scale, C, D, E, F, G, and that's a G7 chord. Now, this exists in every key, so once you can do this, you'll be able to play in any key. So stepping stones, that's a very odd title, but what does it mean? Well, it's a very simple approach, and all we're going to do is choose where to play the root notes of each chord on the fingerboard, and that's going to inform the walking bass lines that we're going to play. It sounds far too simple to be true, doesn't it? But before I get into playing any actual bass lines, I'm going to look at how many different ways we can play the root movement. So I'm starting from C here at the 3rd fret of the A string, A is at the 5th fret of the E string, D is at the 5th fret of the A string, and then G at the 3rd fret of the E string. Now, I'm not going to play any open strings because I think it's really important to get your geography set and know where to fret the notes on the fingerboard. Also, the majority of what we're going to be playing is going to be under the hands, so there's going to be no jumping around. So C, A, D, G. We can play a variation on that, C, A, D, and from this D we can jump across a string and play G at the 5th fret of the D string. We can also play C and then jump to A at the 7th fret of the D string. D's here at the 5th fret of the A string under the 1st finger, and then we can jump a string and play G at the 5th fret of the D string. We can also play a variation on that, C, A. From A we can jump across a string and play D at the 7th fret of the G string, and then D is at the 5th fret of the D string. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And for completeness, from C we can play A at the 2nd fret of the G string. We can play any combination of D and G after that. It doesn't really matter. Now, I did say that you need to know the major scale, but more than that, you need to have a good understanding of the notes and where to play them. It's very difficult to play fluent walking bass lines without actually knowing where to play the notes, and if that's something that you struggle with, it might be something to look at first. The great thing about all of those variations is that there are no alternatives. It doesn't matter where you play them on the fingerboard, there are no other permutations for playing this root movement, and once you've learned to negotiate this chord progression, it's going to make playing over any other chord progression that you're faced with much easier. Now we're getting into what this lesson is really all about, but first I need to look at all of the different ways that we can approach the root note of each chord. I'm going to be using the fifth and octave of each chord to help me demonstrate this, because the fifth and octave are pivotal to everything that we play on the bass, not just in walking bass lines. So just as a reminder, if we've got a C root note here, the fifth below is at the same fret on the string below. If we play a fifth above this C, we play this, so we're crossing one string and then moving up 2 frets. The octave is just across 2 strings and then up 2 frets. So the first technique that we can use is to simply just jump straight to the root note of the chord. So here I'm playing C twice, playing the fifth below, jumping back up to C, then I'm jumping straight to the root note of A minor, playing that twice, playing the fifth above and the octave, then I'm jumping straight to D, fifth below, and then G. Now I forgot to say that I'm going to be using the first root movement that I spoke about earlier just to demonstrate all of these techniques. Then the next thing we can do is approach the root note from below. So this time again, really simply, I'm playing 2 root notes, 2 fifths, and then approaching that. And we can also play this. So this time I'm just using the scale. Now remember earlier I did say you need to have a reasonable understanding of the notes in the scale. So this time I'm playing C, open E, and from there I'm just running up the scale, F, G into A. Now you can also approach it from below using a chromatic note. So this time I'm playing 2 C's, down to a fifth, and then I'm playing a G sharp to lead us into this A, the root note of A minor 7. And you can also approach it from above. So this time I'm running down the scale, 2 C's, 2 B's into A. If I play it here, it might be easy for you to see. So I'm playing C twice, jump into B twice, I'm at the 7th fret of the E string into A. I could also play C here at the 8th fret of the E string, C, B, A. And you can also approach it from above using a chromatic note. This time I'm playing C twice, B, then I'm playing this B flat or A sharp to lead us into A. So we can approach the note directly, we can approach it from below, we can approach it below with a chromatic note, we can approach it from above, or we can approach it from above with a chromatic note. And if you approach it from either the fifth or the octave of the previous chord, it falls into one of these protocols. Let me show you. So I'm going to play. So this time I'm playing 2 C root notes, a fifth and an octave. From there I need to jump straight to A. I'm going to play this A here at the 7th fret of the D string. So I just jump straight there. What if I played this? So this time I played root note, octave, root note, fifth, and then approached the A from below. So it doesn't matter what chord progression you play over, these are the only root movement options available to us. I've been playing walking bass lines for a long time, and I'm hard pushed to think of an alternative. Yes, there are lots and lots of different types of bass lines that are wide and varied, but in terms of the options of getting from the root note of one chord to another, these are the only options available to us. So let's get into the bass lines now. For this first bass line, I'm going to start by choosing a root movement that I want to follow. Then I'll decide how to approach each note. So I'm going to start from C here at the 3rd fret of the A string. And I think I'll target this A here at the 5th fret of the E string. And I'm going to approach that from below using a chromatic note. So we've got C, E, G and G sharp. And those first 3 notes, C, E and G, are just the notes in the C major chord arpeggio. C's the root, E's the 3rd, G's the 5th, then we've got G sharp into A. And from this A, I'm going to target D here at the 5th fret of the A string. And I think I'll approach that from above. And I'm going to start by just playing up the scale from this A, B, C. We've got one more note, so I think I'll jump to this E here, because that's just the next note in the C major scale above D. From this D, I'm going to target G here at the 5th fret of the D string, and I'm going to approach that from below, and I'm going to play up the scale. So we've got D, E, F. I'm going to use a chromatic note, so that's F sharp into G. And from this G, I'm going to approach C again at the 3rd fret of the A string, but this time I'm just going to jump directly to it. Alright, so I'm playing down a G major chord arpeggio this time. G, D's the 5th, B's the 3rd, G's the root. So I'm going to play this now along to a backing track so that you can hear what it sounds like in context. I thought that sounded quite good, but just to prove that it wasn't the fluke, I'm going to do the same thing again, but this time I'm going to use a slightly different root movement. I'm going to start from C here again at the 3rd fret of the A string, but this time I'm going to target A here at the 7th fret of the D string, and I think I'll approach that directly. So this time I played C twice, jumped to G, which is the 5th, then I played E here at the 7th fret of the A string to lead into A. Now that happens to be the 5th of A, but I chose it randomly. From this A, I'm going to target D here at the 7th fret of the G string, and I think I'm going to approach that from above. So this time I played A, E the 5th, back to A, then I played this chromatic note E flat to lead us into D. From this D, I'm going to target G here at the 5th fret of the D string, and I think I'll approach that from above and just play down the scale. So I'm playing D, C, B, A, G, and from this G I'm going to return to C here at the 3rd fret of the A string, and I think I'll approach that from above and continue playing down the scale. So I'm playing G, F, E, D into C. So I'm pretty much playing down the entire C major scale from D here at the 7th fret of the D string. D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. So I'm going to play that now to a track. Just before getting to this third example, don't forget that everything that I'm playing is in the PDF for the lesson. I've also included all of the backing tracks that I'm using as part of that download, and I've included some variations of those backing tracks at different tempos, so you've got a selection of things that you can use to practice along to, so make sure you grab a copy of that. So this time I'm going to do something just a little bit different. I'm going to start from C here again at the 3rd fret of the A string, and I'm going to target A again at the 7th fret of the D string, but I'm going to start by jumping from this C root note to an octave C here at the 10th fret of the D string. Now I'm targeting A here, so I'm just going to play chromatically into it and approach it from above. So I'm playing C, octave C, B, B flat into A. From this A, I'm going to target D here at the 5th fret of the A string, and I'm going to approach that from above. So this time I'm playing A, jumping down to A an octave lower, jumping back up to A, and then playing E to lead into D. From this D, I'm going to target G here at the 3rd fret of the E string, and I think I'm going to jump straight to it. And from this G, I played D, A, C, D, so I'm just playing around the C major scale, and then from this G I'm going to target C here at the 3rd fret of the A string, and I think I'll approach that from below. So this time I played G, I played D the 5th, and then I jumped to A, and from this A I played up the C major scale and played B, C. So not only was that a scale line, but it also gave me this chromatic approach note from B to C. For me, all three of those bass lines work well, and I really hope that you've picked up on the fact that I was varying the techniques that I was using. So I wasn't using the same approach on every single chord, and the fact that I've done that has produced three different bass lines with three very different flavors. The one thing that I'm really hoping to impress on you in this lesson is the importance of playing strong lines that outline the harmony, because that's the job of bass in walking bass. And it's far better to play functional lines and work on connecting the chords smoothly than using little tricks and using too much chromaticism, because the musicians that you play with will thank you for that. They'll be able to hear the harmony and they'll be able to play over it in any way that they want. Now, that's all fine so far, but I really need to put this theory to test by using it in a real tune. So this time I'm going to apply it to a well-known standard, and that's Autumn Leaves. Now, the first thing that you need to know about this is that it's in the key of B flat. So you need to know the B flat major scale. B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A, and then B flat. So the chord progression is C minor 7 to F7, to B flat major 7, to E flat major 7, to A minor 7 flat 5, to D7, and then back to G minor. So we've got a full range of chords, and I'm going to start by playing C here at the 8th fret of the E string, and I'm going to target F, the root note of the next chord, which is F7 here, at the 8th fret of the A string, and I'm going to approach that from below chromatically. So I'm playing C, and I'm just playing up the B flat major scale. C, D, E flat, and I'm playing this chromatic approach note E into F. From this F, I'm going to target B flat here at the 6th fret of the E string, and I'm just going to approach that directly. So this time I'm playing F twice, down to C, the 5th below, and then back up to F and into the B flat. From this B flat, I'm going to target E flat here at the 6th fret of the A string, and I think I'll approach that from above. So again, I've used a little bit of chromaticism. I've played B flat, D, which is the 3rd of the chord, F, which is the 5th, and I'm playing this E natural that leads us into E flat. Now, from this E flat, I'm going to approach A here at the 7th fret of the D string, and I think I'll approach that from below. So this time I played E, played the 5th, which is B flat, back to E flat, and then G to lead us into A. From this A, I'm going to target D here at the 5th fret of the A string, and this time I think I'll approach that from below too. Actually, I approached that directly, so I played A, E flat, which is the flattened 5th because it's an A flat minor 7, sorry, it's an A minor 7 flat 5, so we've got A to E flat, C, which is the flattened 3rd of the chord, back to A and directly into D. Then from this D, I'm going to approach G here at the 3rd fret of the E string, and I'm going to approach it from below. I'm going to play that, so I'm playing D twice, F, and I'm going to play this F sharp to lead us in chromatically. from this G, I'm gonna C here, 8th fret of the E string, and I think I'll approach that just by playing up the scale. From below, so I'm playing G, A, B flat, C, D, E flat, F to B flat to approach it from below back into the C. So let's hear what that sounds like. So that worked too, and I really hope that you can see the value in this technique. I know I haven't looked at the specifics of what actual notes to play, but I firmly believe that if you use this method and you focus on targeting the notes that you want to approach, then coming up with lines yourself isn't that difficult. And the chances are, if you do that, you're going to remember those lines, so you'll have them to use in different musical situations. I really do hope that you've enjoyed this lesson. If you have, give me a shout out and let me know in the comments. And make sure you grab the PDF too. Feel free to like the video and also support what I'm doing here by subscribing to the channel. Thanks for joining me. Look forward to seeing you again. And in the meantime, happy practicing.